Welcome to From the Shed End. Welcome. I'm smiling. I'm happy. It's Saturday afternoon. We won. We won. I'm not even shameless. I'm happy that we beat Luton. Before we get into all of that stuff about Luton, about the game last night, please go subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the Linktree link in the description as well. Make sure you follow all our social accounts, all of that stuff as well. But I'm happy. What can I say? We won. We looked really good. I was happy with the performance. I was happy with individual players. Surprised we went with the three centre backs, with the wing backs. Something I'm really not happy that we're doing, but we're going to get into all of that. But we won. We won. Before we get into last night's game, I want to talk about obviously some outgoings that I haven't mentioned on here, that we haven't spoken about. But obviously, Lukaku, looks like Chelsea now have said that they will allow Lukaku to go out on loan. Hopefully that means a loan with an obligation to buy at the end of it. Juventus seem to have decided that they don't want him. But we'll take what we can take. Let's be honest. We don't want Lukaku at the club. Lukaku doesn't want to be at the club. I think it makes sense for Lukaku to leave. Pochettino has come out and said, obviously, that he doesn't want players that aren't involved in the first team to be training with the first team away from the club. So that all makes sense. But Roma, the latest club, Jose Mourinho, Chelsea through and through. He wants to do us another favor by taking the donkey off our hands. And look, we'd be stupid not to allow this to go through. So it looks like Roma are currently in talks with Chelsea about signing Lukaku on loan this season. Obviously, you know, they are looking for a striker. He's keen to get back to Italy. We know that already. Inter Milan fell out of favor with them. Juventus, he fell out of favor with them. But I think we need to get rid of him quick because the time is running out. Obviously, the window shuts in about 5 or 6 days now. Yeah, he needs to go. And yeah, the European transfer window shuts on the 1st of September. I think now we're at that point where we know we're not necessarily going to get a big fee for him. We're not going to get the deal that we want done for Lukaku. But I still think there is time, there's room for us to make sure that we can at least get a loan deal done with the full wages being paid by the club, with a mandatory fee included with whoever that will be, whether that's Roma, whether that's a Saudi club that might come in last minute for him. But we need to get rid of this guy. We can't have this guy on our books. We can't have him involved in the team. I don't want him sitting on the bench if he's not playing. I don't want him in the development squad because, as I said on the podcast last week, you know, that takes away the opportunity for one of the youngsters that are coming through for the dev squad. Why should they miss out because Lukaku has to go and sit with the youngsters? That doesn't sit right with me either. And yeah, we need to get him off the books. It's as simple as that. We know that. We know that we need him off the books. It's not even, you know, it's not even a. It's a no-brainer. We need him. We need him off the books. So, I think. Hopefully this deal goes through. Hopefully we can get Lukaku off the books. I mean, it says there, I mean, look at that. Lukaku's last Chelsea appearance came in the FA Cup final defeat. And if you remember as well, he wasn't even that good in that final. He wasn't even that good. You know, he couldn't even get to the Inter team. He was poor for Inter. If you think about his loan spells at Inter, he wasn't even that good for them. You know, he's been playing poor. And I think, you know, for me personally, the only thing we can do now with Lukaku is get him off the books. And whether that's a loan, whether we let him run down his contract and he goes out on loan for the remainder of his contract, then so be it. But he's got to go. He's got to go. He has to go. There's as simple as that. He has to go. And my only worry if we don't sell him, and I'd love to hear what people think in the comments as well. But my only thing, if we don't sell Lukaku, is where does he go? What do we do with him? How do we ensure that we can get him off the wage bill somehow? Is there a conversation that we mutually agree to terminate his contract and pay him up? It could be the easier option. Let's be honest. It could be the easier option of the two things to do right now is to pay up Lukaku and make sure that he's off the books. Because in reality, what else is there to do with him? Pochettino doesn't seem keen to have him in the squad. The board have made it clear as day that they do not want him in the squad. And I know Pochettino came out the other day and said that there's an option, or there might be an opportunity for Lukaku to reintroduce himself back into the squad. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all with Lukaku. I think he's shut on his doorstep too many times, in my opinion. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But let's talk about last night's game, because I think last night was a really good performance. I was surprised he went with the lineup that we went with. Let's try and get the lineup up. But I was very surprised with the fact that I predicted a back four. Me and Theo both predicted a back four. Back four, two in midfield. With I think we had Moises Caicedo and Enzo in midfield, and Conor Gallagher playing a bit forward in the 10. But it did seem a bit odd. I mean, I'll get the lineup up now. This is the lineup we went with, and it worked. I mean, I'm not criticizing that it didn't work. It worked. But so we went with Robert Sanchez, obvious choice in goal, Malagusto, Axel Dizazi, Thiago Silva, Levi Colwell as our centre backs, Ben Chilwell as our left wing back, which we're going to get onto all of that in a minute, because there was a massive hybrid involved in that formation last night. We had Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo as the two in midfield as a double pivot, which kind of threw me off because it did allow Enzo Fernandez a bit more of a free reign, a free roaming sort of, access all areas sort of role that he got to play yesterday. And Raheem Sterling, and then Nicholas Jackson, who I thought played amazing again, who gets unfair criticism by the club, from the fans, in my opinion. But we went on to win 3-0. If anyone was under a rock last night, we won 3-0. A really good performance. As you can see from the stats there on the screen, we literally battered Luton. But stats tell one side of the game, because let's be honest, Luton did have their opportunities. I know they didn't have any big chances, but they definitely had some good opportunities to try and score. But I thought we played well. I was happy with how we played. I was happy with the performance, the link-up play. You can see what Mauricio Pochettino is trying to do with this squad. You can see that he's trying to build something. And we have to remember there's a lot of players that are out injured. I think we have 9, maybe 8 or 9 players out injured at the moment. So that's a lot of players to not have in your team, not have playing for you that you would have, Reece James and Cuckoo, Carney Chukwuemeka, you would say, based on how we played at preseason and how he's been playing, even in the West Ham game before he got injured, you'd say he would have been playing as well. Lavi has got to come in that team. This is his second game, full game for Moises Caicedo. So I think it's hard to criticize him if he had a poor performance against West Ham. So I think there's been a lot of things that have gone against us already this season. But in terms of the lineup, I mean, I'm going to be honest. We need to start playing Ben Chilwell as a winger, Levi Colwell as a left back. I get it. I get why we're doing it. And if you think back to, I think it was last season, we did something similar on the right with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Ruben Loftus-Cheek would sometimes slot in as a winger on the right. And then when we lose possession, he would become a right wing back. So I get it. I get it. My only criticism of doing that on the left side at the moment, one, Levi Colwell, yes, he can play left back. He's a left-sided, left-footed defender, centre back. He can play there, but he looks uncomfortable as a left back. It then means that Thiago Silva has to do a lot more work in that defensive line. He has to do a lot more to make sure that the goals do not come thick and fast. Now, in my head, realistically, we should just be playing Levi Colwell as a centre-back, Thiago Silva as a centre-back, Malagusto as a right-back, and Ben Chilwell as your left-back. I don't understand. I mean, it offers Ben Chilwell going forward, for me personally, isn't it? He's not the guy, for me personally, to be going forward, to be bombing forward. I mean, there was an opportunity yesterday, and any player, doesn't matter if you're in League 2, League 1, non-league, grassroots, if you come cut in and you're in you're 6 yards away from goal, you don't look to pass the ball, you score, or you at least attempt to score. Ben Chilwell, whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's, I don't know. I think Raheem Sterling mentioned it after the game in his post-match yesterday, that he said basically that he's been, I think in the West Ham game, he kept asking Chilwell to passing the ball. But when you're in front of goal, and there has to be a level of selfishness in this Chelsea squad. Nicholas Jackson has to be selfish in front of goal. There's been too many times now, West Ham, Liverpool, it happened as well last night against Luton, where we've got good chances. We're in good positions to score goals. And we don't score goals because we're looking to pass the ball. We're doing that thing of like 1,000 passes before we even attempt to score a goal. And I think sometimes, Raheem Sterling, especially now, you can see with Raheem Sterling, he's trying to get into those positions where he is being selfish. Raheem Sterling for the first goal, Raheem Sterling would have easily passed that ball last season. He would have got into a really good position. He would have took on 2 or 3 players and he would have looked up to try and pass the ball to someone, whoever that would have been. But this new Raheem Sterling, reformed Razzle and Dazzling Sterling, he doesn't care about his teammates. He wants goals. He said it last night after the game. He wants goals. He wants assists. He wants to play well. He's had conversations with Pochettino about his role and changing it. And he just seems like the player that we thought we were going to get last season. This Raheem Sterling, if he can do this for the season, it's going to be scary when Nkunku comes back, when Nicholas Jackson starts hitting, form a bit more. It's going to be a bit scary down that right there. I mean, personally for me, going back to the Ben Chilwell thing, I played Ben Chilwell as my left back. I put Raheem Sterling as left wing. That's where he was playing. He cuts in. He can cut in from the right. He can cut in from the left. I would put Raheem Sterling on that left side, and I'd put Noni Madueke on the right hand side. I think Raheem Sterling, you're not going to lose anything with Raheem Sterling being on the left. You're gonna get as much as you got last night from the right hand side from Raheem. So I don't understand. I think we lose something by putting Ben Chilwell as a winger, playing him to advance in that role. I think when you've got someone like Raheem Sterling who's able to take that player on, Ben Chilwell can't do that. He can't take a player on. And when he does, he's like a deer in headlights when he gets to the final third. When he's in that one moment where he's got to score the goal, he panics. Or he panics last night anyway. Yeah, I think we've got to play Raheem Sterling off the left, in my opinion. He has to play off the left. We should be playing him there. We should be looking to Noni Madueke for the right hand side. And I mean, Enzo played really well yesterday. I mean, we have to credit Enzo as well. I thought he was one of the better players for us alongside Nicholas Jackson. But and I think it suits Enzo to play. And I've been saying this for so long on this podcast, on other podcasts. Enzo needs to be playing more forward. Enzo playing in a deep midfield role, it doesn't really suit him. It doesn't really suit him. For me, it doesn't. We don't gain anything. We don't benefit from Raheem Sterling, from Enzo being in that role. You got to see it last night. He's able to pick off passes even better. The ball to Raheem Sterling for Nicholas Jackson's goal. Some people are saying that's an easy pass. If you go back and watch the video, watch the highlights, he picks the ball out from the air. He controls it very nicely and half volleys the ball to Raheem Sterling. Now, there ain't many players in the Premier League that can do that with that much composure. I think there was one player on Enzo. There was 3 behind him. Sterling first time ball into the box to Jackson. Jackson in a position that he has to be in a lot more as well in terms of that attacking mindset. One of the things that I criticized Jackson for, especially I think for Liverpool, and maybe even for West Ham as well, was that he wasn't in the box at the right time enough. He gets into the box, he does well, does everything. He can hold at the ball, he's strong on the ball, he can run, he can beat players. But sometimes you just got to be critical. You got to be in that box. And Nicholas Jackson last night, to give him his credit, didn't stop. And I was so glad that he got a goal, because I think he's one player that already, and I don't get it. People are saying, is he good enough to be our number 9? I would say yes. I think he is. He's shown a lot of qualities on and off the ball. I think in this day and age as well, you can't just be. Everyone looks at Haaland as the striker, Haaland and a traditional number 9. But I think, Harry Kane was scoring goals and he was picking the ball up from midfield and doing all the rest of it and doing some of that work that the midfielders should have been doing. Nicholas Jackson's doing exactly the same for Chelsea at the moment. You know, if you watch him, he's got the ball sometimes on the halfway line. You know, he's got the ball and he'll run towards goal. No, that's the sort of striker I think we need. If that's the system we're going to play with the wing backs and, you know, the two in midfield, then I think that's the system we have to play. We have to play with to the strengths of Nicholas Jackson, to the likes of Enzo Fernandez. But I think we've got a good striker on our hands there. I think he's such a brilliant. You can tell that he's got an eye for goal, and we've lost that. When you think back to Chelsea, think back to the last time we had a striker that was eager to get goals. When was the last time we had a striker that was actually willing to get in the box and try and score a goal? When was the last time? You could probably arguably say Lukaku, but take Lukaku out of the situation. When was the last time we had a striker that was good enough, willing as well? Let's not forget, you have to be committed to be a striker. You've got to be willing to get into that box, beat your man. You know, last night, Jackson, you know, it took a bit of a slight deflection when Sterling crosses the ball in, but he's there. He's hungry. He wants to go. You know, and that's what you've got to be as a striker. You can't be in and around outside the box. You've got to be hungry. As soon as that ball's pinged over from Enzo to Sterling, Jackson straight in the box. He's got to do that more often for me. And if he does that, then we've got ourselves a brilliant striker. We really have. I think Pochettino said he could go on to be one of the best Premier League strikers. I agree, because he's got all the qualities, and if he keeps that up, you know, Christopher Nkunku has to come back. You know, I think even more so when Amanda Broya is back in the team, that might even spark something else in Jackson to find another level in his football. You know, competitiveness is always about, you know, if Broya comes back and, you know, Jackson's going to think, right, I want to be the number 9. I want to be the striker. I want to be the goal scorer. And you could see how much it meant to him to score. You know, he's had a lot of pressure. He's had a lot of pressure put on him by the fans already. You know, fans are saying that he's not good enough or he shouldn't be playing in the position that he's playing. I think last night we got to see that he can play that role, and he can play as a striker, and he can play as we need him to. The problem, I think, with Nicholas Jackson, he's got to make sure he gets someone like Raheem Sterling consistently playing how he's been playing as well. Because if, you know, he's only going to feed off their energy. You know, he's only going to feed off their balls into the box. So if he can do that on a regular basis, we've got ourselves a striker. We've got ourselves a striker. We don't even need to worry about that. Now, I do have to say this. We have to be grateful that we were playing Luton last night, because I think had we been playing Man City, had we been playing Liverpool again, or Arsenal, or top, you know, one of those top teams, we could have possibly got turned over yesterday. It wasn't all plain sailing. Like I said before, you know, Luton had a couple of chances to score, but I do think there's still things in there that doesn't look, especially in defense, you know, not that we were poor in defense yesterday. I just think if we come up against a team that isn't Luton, you know, we're gonna, I mean, credit to Luton, you know, they've come into this league, and they're probably 9 out of 10 times are going to get turned over most weekends. Let's be honest. You know, they're going to drop points left, right, center. But when you're still seeing, like, we're struggling to put games away, like when we went 1-0 up Sterling, yeah, we were trying to score the second, but we weren't scoring it. Now, had we been playing Man City, like I said, or a top club, they're not allowing us that much time on the ball. They're not allowing us, you know, 60, 70, 80% possession of the ball. So we have to be more clinical. And when we go 1-0 up, we can't afford to just sit back a little bit, or we can't just afford to pass the ball around. We have to try and get that second goal, because the moment that Luton, if they ever scored that goal, we could have been in a West Ham situation again. We really could have. You know, I think it's only because we came up against a team that's newly promoted, you know, looks very inexperienced at times as well. But if we'd come up against City, I'm not so sure it would end 3-0. So that's my only worry. I still feel there's a bit of cracks in the team. Maybe it's just the fact that the team is still getting used to how Pochettino wants them to play. But you know, we when we score a goal, we have to kill games off. We have to kill games off. We can't afford to not kill games off, because if we don't do that, we're only going to pick points up against the smaller clubs. We can't afford to be doing that. Let's be honest. We can't afford to be doing that. So, in my opinion, we're playing against, these teams week in, week out. We've got no Champions League. We've got no excuses. We score a goal, you got to score another one. You got to score third. Because this season, we got to be getting back in the Champions League. We got no excuses. No excuses. If we play how we played like against Liverpool, let's be right. We were unlucky not to beat Liverpool. We shouldn't have lost to West Ham, even though we switched off in the second half. And we looked okay against Luton. Now, I've said, for me, the real test doesn't come till Arsenal. I think we play Arsenal the 21st of October or the 27th. To me, that's the first test. Every other game, we should be winning. We should be picking up points easy against any other team because we don't have anything else to worry about this season. Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League is our priority this season. We got injuries, yeah. Okay, we got a bit of squad depth now. We got Malaga still for Reece James. We've got Lavia to come into this team. So I look at the team now, and I think we should not be worried going into a game. We shouldn't be worried, but we also have to kill the game off, and that's one of the things. I mean, this is the first time I think for how long? I think clean sheets. I mean, we were the king of clean sheets at one point. We weren't even conceding goals at Stamford Bridge. The fixture list. So we've got AFC Wimbledon Wednesday, Carabao Cup. I mean, let's just bypass that. That's a win already. Nottingham Forest, we should beat them. Easy. International break. After that, we've got Bournemouth, who just lost, I think, 2-0 to Spurs today. We should beat them. Easy. Aston Villa at home, we should beat them. Let's be honest. This isn't Aston Villa, a really good team under Unai Emery, but at Stamford Bridge, we should beat them. No ifs or buts. We should beat them. Fulham, again, we should beat them. Let's be honest. We're talking about, a couple of seasons ago, we were world champions. So we can't be sitting here talking about Fulham. We can't beat them. Back to back there, Fulham and Burnley should beat them. 21st of October, for me, is our first real test. Arsenal. It's the first real test. All these games is opportunities for Pochettino to get the squad right. Personally, I don't like the five at the back. I don't like the three centre-backs. I don't like it. I don't know why we're doing it. We didn't do it through pre-season. We didn't do it at all in any of our games under Pochettino. And then when we get into that Liverpool game, I understood it. I understood why we played three at the back for Liverpool. You want to protect yourself slightly. You look at their, Gakpo, Nunez, Salah, Jota. I understand it. West Ham, I didn't understand it. Because when you're playing against West Ham, again, you lose something. When you've got Ben Chilwell playing as a winger, and you've got someone like Ian Maatsen who can easily play on the side as well. Here we go, Theo. Theo, who's in Barcelona. We should, in commas, we should be beating all these teams, but we don't make things easy for ourselves. That being said, no more excuses, not with the money that we've spent, 100%. This is what I've been trying to say. We can't afford to drop points against any of these teams. Not one team. And this is the difference with us. The fact that we spent the money isn't even the issue for me. It's the fact that the quality of the players, we shouldn't even be panicking about playing Luton. And I was slightly panicked. I thought we could actually lose to Luton. We might even lose to Forest, but we shouldn't. We're world champions not long ago. We just won the Champions League not so long ago. So all these games, I mean, Villa is probably the only banana skin. The only one where I do think it might cause us a few issues because they are a very, very good team under Unai Emery. But I mean, Fulham, again, a night game, a derby game, but we should beat them. I think we've got enough about us where we should be able to win. We should be able to play well against all of those teams, in my opinion. And I don't think we should be struggling against any of them. Like I said, Arsenal for me is the biggest test that we're going to have coming up to October. that busy period as well. When you think to Brentford, again, no Ivan Toney. Spurs looking very good. As I said, they just beat Bournemouth, I think 2-0, so they look very dangerous. But this is when it gets crucial. I mean, this is when you're talking about the busy part of the season. This is where people start actually looking at the Premier League and thinking, right, where can we finish? So, look at Tottenham, then we've got Man City, then we've got Newcastle. I mean, they're three difficult games there. No Harry Kane, but they look good. James Maddison, Kulusevski, Son, they look very good going forward. I think for Spurs, we don't even need to talk about Man City because they are just Man City. And Newcastle, I still don't think they're finished in the transfer window. I think they might go and sign one or two other players. So, the 3 games there that are going to be difficult. Brighton, if you think back to last season, they done us over. So I think we should be able to beat Brighton. I think Enciso's out for 4 months as well. But again, they've still got Ferguson. They've still got, albeit Danny Welbeck, who I think loves to score against us as well. They've got a really good squad at Brighton. Then you look at United. I mean, those two are beatable, but, who knows at this point? We're talking about December, but I just think those games there, crazy games. You don't want to be going into those games needing points. Our opportunity to get points is right now. 100%. There's no way we should be losing any of those games coming up. And I think we have to trust Pochettino. I mean, Pochettino is the manager. He's the one that's, the manager. He's the one that we've got to trust in. But I think slow improvements. I'm seeing improvements game by game. Nicholas Jackson, as I said, as credit to him, because I think, especially over social media, there's a lot of sort of criticism coming in already of him. Is he good enough? Should he be playing as a striker? Is he a winger? Well, I think he's silenced a few critics yesterday. And for me, arguably one of the better players on the pitch, alongside Enzo Fernandez, alongside Raheem Sterling. If those players can keep up the performances that they've been putting in for the first 3 games already this season, we should be okay. Like I said, Lavia's got to come back into there. My only question I have for people, and I'd love to know, comments after the live stream as well. But Thiago Silva, who for me is arguably the best centre back that I've probably watched in the last 5, 6, 7 years. But there's going to become a point where we have to phase him out at the squad, and I still think this should have happened last season, and I still think that was the intention. I think that's possibly why we brought in Koulibaly. Yep, I agree, Theo. Can't afford any more injuries going into the busy November-December period. Our depth and quality off the bench has been weak in experience lately. I agree. I didn't really like the subs yesterday. I say that, but I don't remember all of them. But I don't really like the subs. I think Ian Matson. I think Ian Matson probably was the only one that I kind of understood why he came on. Mason Burstow, Leslie Ogochukwu. I think I've said that right. But yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, we need some injured players to come back, I think is the message that Theo's sending out there as well. But I think with Thiago Silva, I think, he's probably one of the best centre-backs ever that I've ever watched. But we need to phase him out. Koulibaly, I think, was brought in to do that. I really do. I think we brought in Koulibaly last season to allow that experience to still be in the back line, but to allow Thiago Silva little time out the squad. Theo with the stats. I love the stats. So Thiago Silva, second oldest player after Sheringham to start the first 3 games of a Premier League season. We rely on him way too much. We do rely on him, but I think we shouldn't rely on him. We do rely on him and we do need him, but I think at what point do we phase him out? Now, obviously, this will probably be his last season in English football anyway, but I think that's why we're playing the back 3, because I don't think Pochettino would trust Tazazi and Levi Colwell in a back 2 as the 2 centre backs, and I don't think Badia Shield's got to come back into the team. Wesley Fofana's out for the rest of the season, and Chalobah looks like he's on his way out. So I think it's not a question of can we. I think we can't, but I think we should be able to. We should, because we have defenders there, but I just don't think the trust. Dazazi. I don't know. I'm not 100% on him yet. I still think he looks iffy on the ball. And he had an okay game yesterday against Luton, let's be honest. But again, when you come up against Haaland, you come up against Marcus Rashford, you come up against just a strong centre forward, someone who's a bit more about them going forward. I think he might struggle. He struggled against Antonio, and Antonio isn't the best goal scorer, but he's strong, he's athletic, he can take the ball forward. He's going to give you something to work on. He didn't get that test yesterday with Luton. So I think, and even then he still looked a bit shaky against Luton. So I do worry, is he going to be good enough for us to be able to then next season say, right, Thiago Silva, thank you for your services. Here's a coaching job for you, or here's the opportunity for you to go back to Brazil, or whatever you want to do in the future. Can we put the trust in the defenders that we've got, which is why we've signed them, to allow Thiago Silva to go? So my only thing with this, why Pochettino has gone to 3 at the back, is because he doesn't trust the centre backs to do the job, and he needs that experience in there, and that experience comes from Thiago Silva. I love Thiago Silva. I've been so vocal about him for the last 2 years. My only worry is that I don't want to see him get injured. He played a lot. If you remember last season, the season before, there was times when you could tell that he was injured, but he was just playing through the pain. And I don't know if can he do that this season? Maybe he can, but I just think 38 years of age, as Theo just said here, he's the oldest player after Sheringham to start 3 games. I mean, no, we should not be relying on 38-year-old Thiago Silva to get a game over the line for us. We should have enough experience now. We've had the experience, and that's one key area we've always had the best experience. You go back to John Terry, you go back to Gary Cahill, Ricardo Carvalho. We've had the experience always there. Even when Ivanovic was there, Aspilicueta, we've always had experience in our defence. And I think if we lose Thiago Silva, Reece James is even going to be fit enough to be. He now then becomes the most experienced player that we've got in our back line. Maybe Ben Chilwell, but both of them aren't really the experience we need, especially at centre back. So that does worry me a lot this season. We need to probably move Thiago Silva on at some point. Like I said, he'll probably want to leave at the end of the season, but at the same time, if he does get injured, what then? Who do we look to for that experience? Who do we go to and say, right, you're now the person that needs to lead this back line and make sure that the line is where it needs to be? We don't have that. We're looking at Chilwell. We're looking at Badiashile when he comes back. Sanchez is going to have to be that person, be vocal at the back. That's a worry for me, I think, that's a worry. So we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be his last season anyway. Theo, if you're still on, I did talk about Lukaku. You'd be happy I voiced that part of Lukaku to Roma. Looks like it's happening. So yeah, loan. I still don't know if I'm trying to find out if it's obligation to buy at the end of that deal. Let's see if we can find out some information on that. But if he does go to Roma, I think to be honest, I think if he goes to Roma, he'll actually do really well. We've got some latest update actually. So look what this one says. So let's have a look. Apparently he's willing to sign a contract very soon. So it says here, Lukaku confirms Roma move. Tomorrow I'll sign the contract. This is literally 20 minutes ago that this information came out. So I'm assuming it's legitimate. So yeah, looks like the directors from Roma flew to London yesterday to negotiate a deal with the Blues. Roma pair had dinner with their Chelsea counterparts yesterday following their 3-0 win over Luton. So details of the agreement, which is expected to be a €5 million loan with no clause. No. Oh, man. Yeah, that's not the news I wanted. Yeah, that's one way to piss on your Saturday. But the fact that he's out of the club for another season. But I think as well, look, we might actually see Lukaku hit his form again in Roma, for Roma. And it might actually mean they want to sign him at the end of the deal. We don't know. We've got to be positive about that one. But yeah, that's a good shout. Lukaku going out on loan will take up one of the slots for another player to go out on loan abroad, annoyingly enough. It's a lesser of two evils. I think that's the only way we've got to look at it now. What I said earlier was, look, I mean, the other the alternative options is he stays at the club. We've got 350 grand on the books. He's taking up someone's space in the development squad, or he's just sat on our bench not playing. Yeah, I'm hoping they are covering his wages. I think they will. If not, if they don't cover 100%, I would say, you know, a fair proportion, at least 70% of his wages should be covered up by Roma. But he's off the. I mean, look, if we don't end up getting him off the books somehow, then what's the alternatives? He's going to be in the squad, just sitting there, enjoying life, flying here, there, and everywhere. He'll be the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of 23-24 season. Yeah, you know, very true as well. Third time Mourinho manages Lukaku at 3 different clubs. I think he is. I mean, I think even in that article just then, you know, he says basically he's yeah, you know, he said something there about Mourinho, I think, as well, liking, you know, Lukaku. But look, he might go over there and score, you know, 25, 20 goals. You know, he's obviously keen, eager to get back to Italy. I don't know why, but you know, he's keen to get over there. So it'll be interesting when he goes, he's got to play Inter Milan, or he's got to go and play Juve. I don't think he'll get the warmest of receptions. But look, if he's not a Chelsea player in the next, you know, 18 months, then I think we've done ourselves a really good favor by sending him out on loan. You know, I said the alternative options is he stays at the club. You know, he sits there on the bench. You know, he's disrupting the team. Yeah, you know, I don't see where else he would go. So I'm happy that if that happens, and it sounds like it's going speedily. That's the word I'm looking for. Seems like negotiations are sped up. So if they're over here, you know, they're trying to get that deal done, I'd assume they want him over there as soon as possible. We'll have to see how that pans out. But yeah, before we go, I'm sure Lukaku will kiss the badge after 5 games. I'm surprised his lips aren't sore, the amount of kissing he does. Arse kissing, badge kissing, every other type of kissing that Lukaku probably does as well. Yeah, he's just a very bad arse kisser, basically, isn't he? Before we go, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like, share, all of that stuff. Hit the Linktree link in the description as well. And yeah, we've got a game, as I said, midweek, AFC Wimbledon Carabao Cup. So there'll be a preview for that. Of course, when Theo is back from his travels, we'll have the next episode of the podcast as well. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, go back. Latest episode is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now as well. We can enjoy the rest of our weekend. We've played our game. We've got 3 points. It's over to the rest of the Premier League now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon.